They say we're young and we don't know. Won't find out until we grow. Well, I don't know if all that's true, because you got me and Will Rodriguez and Karen Endsley. I got you.
Hey,
Yeah, I
We got you,
got
babe.
you,
we got you, babe.
Awesome. Oh my goodness. Well, his whole life he's been on search for truth. But as a pragmatist, having been raised in New York area, he was deeply skeptical of the messages he was hearing from the New Age movement. So he embarked on a journey of discovery. He needed to find proof that we were more than this three-dimensional body we inhabit. He needed to feel it, see it, hear it, taste it, whatever it took, but it had to be physical in nature. He couldn't just take someone's word for it. He had to experience it for himself. What Will found upended his reality completely. Welcome, Will Rodriguez and Karen Endsley, radio show hosts and podcasters of Skeptic Metaphysicians. Welcome to A Little Less Fear podcast.
Thank you so much for having us on. We are excited. I don't think that's a strong enough word to say.
I want like the little clapping background noise.
Right.
Oh, I know. We need this. We definitely need this. Oh,
Yeah,
my goodness.
I'm working on our intro, on our walk-in music, Karen. I'm going to get her ready soon.
Perfect.
Hey, so Will and Karen, how did the both of you meet? How did the both of you come together to create your own podcast of Skeptic Metaphysicians?
Absolutely divine intervention. There's no question. Karen and I have been together many, many, many lifetimes. This is something that it was inevitable. It took us a long time this time around. But we finally got together. We finally found each other, and we've not looked back since.
And it's funny, we should have met so many other times. Our paths crossed in Athens. Our paths crossed at a Michael Jackson concert when we were in high school, but we never met until it was time.
Yep.
How did you discover this, that your paths had crossed before? How did you discover that?
Just through conversations. I was talking about traveling in Athens during the Olympics. And then he's like, I was there during the Olympics. Then we talked and found out the dates, and we were there at the same date, the same place.
Yep. I mean, literally, we probably were sitting next to each other and didn't even realize it at one of the cafes for sure. But yeah, Karen and I are married. We should probably mention that. And we've been married for 15 years, been together for 17 total.
Excellent.
And
Wow.
For those that can see the video, we are not 20 years old. So
hey now,
you're 25.
Well, yeah, wait a minute.
Bus meet Karen.
Well, I'm right there underneath the bus with you, Karen. But it took us, we didn't meet until we were much older than typical. And the interesting thing was that neither one of us had been married before. Neither one of us had any kids. And at our age, in our 40s, neither one of us wanted to be with people who had already been married and had kids.
Late 30s.
Right. I was in my 40s.
He was in his 40s.
So what are the odds of finding someone that we could connect with who had all those qualities? It was just mind-blowing when we found each other and go, are you sure that you've never been married before? Because this doesn't seem like it could possibly be.
And ironically, so my mother's from Ecuador, so I'm half Hispanic, and Will's Cuban. And I swore I'd have them in my family. I was never going to date a Hispanic guy. And he swore he has them in his family. He was never going to date a Hispanic woman. So
you know how those Hispanics are, you know?
we were first, and we're like, hey, well, we can talk about people in Spanish. There's some perks.
Yes, there are perks.
But how did the both of you finally connect?
I guess we got to tell him the real story, huh?
I guess so. He'll know.
Yeah. So we have this really complicated origin story of how we met that we tell people because it's so much more romantic than the actual truth about looking at each other from across the way in the airport and ended up somehow meeting, sitting next to each other on a plane somewhere. But no, we met on Match.com.
Womp, womp, womp.
That's okay. I mean, the divine comes in any way, shape, or form.
But this was back when it wasn't common.
With the least resistance, and that's usually the way the universe yields to you. It's usually in an area or a part or a dimension or a vibration or a frequency with the least resistance. And if Match.com was the least resistance to bring the both of you together, then and here you are. That's incredible.
Right. After all the times we should have met in our past earlier, but the universe was like, okay, fine, here's a dating site.
Yeah.
I think the part of it that was key was he lived in a different city. And I think by our age, we had both dated everybody that was available in our cities. So we had to branch out, and that was the only way we could do it.
And so how did the both of you know that there was a deep connection and a purpose for the both of your relationship and unity?
On the relationship side, I knew immediately she felt like home. As soon as I met her, I knew that I was home. It took her a little longer because she was stubborn, but but no, it's one of those things where, you know, everyone says you'll know, right? You'll know when the right person comes along, you'll know. And I always thought that was crap. Like, how you just gotta know? You gotta know someone. You gotta be with them for a while. But really, truly, though I wasn't ready to commit that first date, maybe by the third, I was ready to go. Right? She felt like home. There was something familiar about her. Even when I was looking at her pictures in Match.com, there was something like, I don't know if I know this person already, because she looked familiar to me. And when we met, it was just fireworks from the get. There was like, there was no, it was supposed to be a dinner date, and we ended up staying, I think I left right, what, 4 o'clock in the morning that night, something like that. So it was just, we just hit it off perfectly right off the bat. And we just felt so comfortable with each other.
I never wanted to get married. It was not on my list, my plan at all. But yeah, I would have married him after about 2 weeks, probably.
That's incredible. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Hey, you mentioned fireworks. What are fireworks? What do these fireworks feel like?
Oh, feels perfect.
Yeah. You know, the butterflies in your stomach, the I can't not see her
We
like
used
as
to
soon as
count down
possible.
like the hours and the minutes until we would see each other, because since we lived in different cities, you know, it was like it was on the weekends.
We did.
It'd be like a T-5 hours.
It was
T-minus. It was ridiculous.
so
We were
cheesy.
almost, 40, and we're like little high school kids. It was great.
Yeah, and that's it. It transports you to a time when you're ageless, where it's just this incredible, beautiful connection that you can't live without. That's, for me, that's what fireworks is all about.
And those little red flags that you feel just weren't there. In fact, I tried to break up with him a few times because I thought, well, maybe this is a red flag.
Constantly, constantly.
I had my friends vet him, and of course I did the whole Google search and did the criminal check and all that stuff.
That's beautiful. That's incredible. And I feel the fireworks. I can still feel the fire between the both of you. That's a beautiful.
Awesome.
We just have so much fun together. So much fun. And we're very similar. I mean, we're different enough in the ways, that we can live with. But we're similar enough in the ways that matter. And it really is. He's just the perfect man for me. I mean, he is. I can't put it any other way. And look at him. Hottie Mike.
No, thank you. I don't feel very hot today because it's old man mountain beard I've kept. I was on a solitary retreat last week. Oh, I'll take the sexy scruff. But I didn't shave that whole week, so you can tell that I'm still fresh off the mountain.
So you said, Karen, right now you said the things that matter are the things that connected the both of you. What were the things that mattered?
Kindness. That is huge. You have to be a kind person, and not just how he would treat me, but seeing how he would treat other people. And that to me matters almost more, because someone can always put their best foot forward and, try to impress you. But when you see how they're treating like a waiter or a waitress at a restaurant or a stranger on the street, or if they're helping a neighbor, that's when you really kind of see what kind of person they are. And and he's a very masculine man, but also the most emotional man I've ever met. And he's really good at communicating, but just feeling like, well, I can feel how much he loves me. He just it just shoots out of him. And that is very attractive.
Wow. Doc, keep asking her these questions. These are really good for my ego. This is great.
Oh, I love this. And so when did the both of you say, hey, you know what, let's create a podcast? I'm sure this was years down. You said you've been married 15 years, correct?
Yes.
That's right. Yeah.
And congratulations on that. That's wonderful.
Thank you. Yes, many, many years down the road. In fact, we started our show about the same time, maybe just a couple months after you did, in February. It'll be 3 years.
Okay.
And actually, I started it first on my own. And it was an attempt at me to understand what was going on inside me. Like everybody else, through COVID, I had a very difficult time. I had an extra special difficult time because I one day looked at myself in the mirror because of some things that happened, and I did not like myself at all. And I started to doubt who I was, the person that I thought I was. I came to realize I was not at all. In fact, just the opposite. And I didn't like it. I didn't like who I had been that entire time up until that point. So like a lot of people went to a psychiatrist, psychologist, and I went to therapy, and I had the extreme luck of finding a psychologist who actually was very much in tune with mindfulness, meditation, that kind of thing. And she turned me back onto it. Something I had been studying a long time ago when I was a young man. She brought me back to, and then through therapy, it helped a lot. However, it wasn't enough. I found that yes, there was a lot of stuff inside me that I was able to work out, but there was so much more. I had so many more questions that went so far beyond just the mind. Started meditating, and then things started opening up. I started reaching out to people that I had known back in my days when I was in Florida, that I was researching metaphysics and spirituality and things like that, and having conversation with them. I picked up the book Conversations with God, which was an old friend, but I hadn't picked it up in many, many, many years. And it hit me so hard across the face that I started recording my thoughts on my phone. And then as a way of affirming it and putting it out to the universe, I just made it into a podcast, just me talking into my phone. Terrible quality, but still, it was just, I didn't expect anyone to listen to it. Well, they started getting so personal at one point that I stopped and I pulled them down, and instead started having conversations with these people that I knew in the metaphysics space, trying to understand who I was and why I was having such a hard time and where I needed to go. And over the course of the years, I put a lot of work into it, to the point where it was a lot of work. I did everything myself, still do. Thankfully now I have the help, Karen's help, but every once in a while I would invite Karen as a guest host because she's got an incredible perspective in all of this. What sets our show apart is the dual perspectives going into it. Karen's very much in the woo. She has always known that there is much more to what we experience in life, whereas I come from a more pragmatic point of view where I need you to show it to me before I can kind of wrap my head around it. So we come at topics like this from these two different perspectives, and it seems to provide a really cool way of looking at a metaphysics modality, for example. Mm-hmm. So every time I had her on the show, it was so much fun and so much information came out of it that after a while I was like, Karen, I need you to be my full-time co-host. And we never looked back.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, sorry it was a long story.
Not at all. I love this. I absolutely love this. So you mentioned that you didn't like who you had become prior to diving into the metaphysical world. Who was that past Will?
It was the typical television executive. That's what I do for a living. I work in television. Mm-hmm. And I was very competitive. I was very aggressive. I was very win at all costs mentality. And
easy to anger.
Very easy to anger.
Frenetic energy, just like constantly.
Yeah. Very easy to anger, and really all out for myself in a lot of ways, unfortunately. And incredibly driven to a fault, unfortunately. And it helped me in a time of my life where I needed that to get ahead. However, it did not serve me once I became a family man, to be perfectly honest. And I didn't like it. I didn't like who I was. I felt very entitled. I was very angry. I was impatient. I was judgmental. Everything that I thought I wasn't when I was forced to look at myself and my actions of the past 20 years or whatever, mm-hmm. I was. And I did not like that realization at all.
You had to be right. He had to be right about everything.
Correct.
And for me, one of the biggest struggles we would have is I would tell him something and he would tell me what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling. And I'm like, oh my God, that was such a hot spot. I'm like, you're not in my head. You do not know how I'm feeling, but he knew. Right. He just knew. Right. And that was a big struggle.
But now that I've developed my precognitive abilities, now I really am in her head.
I'm blocking you out. I'm blocking you out.
So what I'm feeling from this is the way that you were before was kind of like the go driven mentality. In getting in Karen's head, that's almost a control factor. If for any reason there was something that would set you feeling out of control, perhaps that could ignite some type of temperament within you, correct?
Yeah. I was very much that little boy who was hurt in the past, and I couldn't get beyond that. And that little boy, if anyone came at me again with anything other than what I expected, mm-hmm. then I flared up. No. What do you mean, right? I very ego driven, like very seated in the three-dimensional world, very much in my ego, and firmly ensconced in the fear mentality, in the war consciousness that we are seeing very, very clearly right now in this country, especially, but in the world, across the world.
So you were mostly fear driven more than love driven, because we can all be ego driven, but there are different aspects of the ego. There's the happy go lucky ego, and then there's the angry ego. So it wasn't much of an ego altogether, but more of the angry, fearful ego, survival ego.
Yes, it was the ego that's not good, right? The fear, the scared little boy who had to protect himself.
Yeah,
But also prove yourself. Like, you had to be the best.
Well, yes, that's
constantly had to be the best
because of things that happened in my past. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You really want to say it's because I am the best. I'm just kidding.
Well, old Will would
He
definitely have
is.
said that. New Will just lets you say instead.
I love it.
And then he passes you a check.
Oh, I love this. And so when did you actually realize, Will, that this wasn't serving you? This isn't the Will that I want to be? Because when a lot of people are in this temperament, in this flurry, in this rush of I'm right, you're wrong, I gotta go, go, go. It takes something for you to sit down, some silence, some type of inner work, something that's gonna sit you down and say, hang on a minute, think twice here.
Yep.
Take a deep breath. How do you really feel? When was that time for you?
That was right as we were starting to shut down during COVID. I had an absolute and complete nervous breakdown. I at one point turned to Karen and said, I think I need to go to the hospital. I think I need to be put somewhere because I'm losing it. And it was at a point in my life where I was so driven and so angry and so entitled. I'm on the internet, getting into these massive, disgustingly ugly arguments with people online for absolutely no reason, ostracizing my own family, my cousins, over things that don't matter a damn, honestly. And Doc, I almost lost everything. Almost lost my family, almost lost my career, I would say I almost lost my life because my family, my career was everything to me. I came within a hair of losing it because I was being stupid and blind to what I had. And so when I was forced to, at that point, look in the mirror or lose everything, I didn't have a choice. I went into it kicking and screaming, but I'll tell you what, it is the one thing that has changed my life to the point where I will never look back at that man and say, wasn't so bad. Because it was.
And so you're kicking and screaming, and you finally had this time to look at yourself in the mirror. What did you see? Who did you see? And what did you realize at that moment?
Well, a lot of people, and COVID was a terrible thing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It was a godsend for me because it forced me to look myself in the mirror, but also it forced me to make the changes I needed to make sure that my family stayed with me. And because of the work that I did and the reflections that I did inside myself, and I spent lots of time in complete silence, outside, inside, wherever. I would sit down. I was so distraught and so lost. I would sit on a couch and do nothing for hours on end because I couldn't deal. I was paralyzed. I couldn't understand how it gotten to where I had gotten. It went contrary to everything I believed in. Everything I believed in, it was contrary to that. And yet I found myself in those shoes somehow. And I hated it. I couldn't believe I was there. And so if it hadn't been for COVID, I do believe that I probably would not be here right now.
It makes sense. I mean, where you were headed was somewhere really, really destructive.
It was. Absolutely, it was. Yeah. I was on a spiraling path that the end result would have been disastrous. No question. No
I
question.
often hear these stories about COVID where COVID could have been really detrimental for a lot of people. A lot of people lost their lives, family, friends, but then a lot of people also came out on the other side a better person. And it's really incredible the way that it affected the collective differently, but at the same time, the same. And it's also, I feel, since we're getting into the talk of spirituality and metaphysics, that a lot of the times higher consciousness will align things for people for them to have a type of awakening to better themselves. Because only your higher self knows this. Your higher
Yeah.
self knows who you are, where you could potentially head, and what the best version of yourself will look like. And deep down, we all want to be the best version of ourselves. And if
Mm.
it takes something as as COVID locking people down to look at themselves in the mirror or look into themselves through silence. And if that's what it takes, that's what it's going to take. And that's what it took for you. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I think that the universe gives you the message a lot. And at first, it's very gentle. It whispers in your ear and says, "Hey, Will, I need you to listen. I need you to learn this." Right? I ignored it. So then the next time, the universe said, "Hey, Will, I need you to learn this." And I still didn't hear about it. The third time or whatever, the next time, it's like, "Hey, Will," right? Well, I didn't listen so many times that this was not just a 2x4 to the head. This was a, pardon the term, but this was an absolute guillotine to the head, because
Mhm.
if I didn't listen this time,
Yeah.
it was done. I was done. You know?
Yeah.
So it behooves us all to listen to that little voice inside us way sooner, because you're right. Our higher self is trying to tell us way early to pay attention to who we're supposed to be. And if we don't listen, then that's when he's going to, or she's going to make sure that no matter what, you have no choice but to change and to learn.
Well, this is excellent. Here you are, a changed man, expanded, evolved. And now we are talking about your life and how you've overcome madness, if I can say it that way, into a
100%.
Yeah.
more peaceful, tranquil state that you are in now. And so now that you are in a more peaceful, tranquil state and you've got your podcast, Skeptic Metaphysicians, how has your podcast evolved from the time that it began? And how
That's
have you and Karen evolved?
That's such a great question. Karen, you want to take that one?
Gosh, it is a great question. So Will came in as the skeptic always and wanting to know the science behind it and show me the proof. And I want to taste it, touch it, feel it, smell it, etc. That has changed tremendously. And I wouldn't
Dramatically.
say he's 100% automatic believer. And to be honest, I'm not 100% either. I mean, there are some people that you're like, all right, dude. You know?
How much were you drinking?
But that was always his first response, where it's kind of my last. But so he has grown to be much more accepting and much more curious about things and willing to believe. And it's funny because there was one point where we were actually going to cancel the podcast because he was working on it a lot, and you know how much work they are when you edit it, and the audio's
Oh,
got to
yeah.
be perfect and the show notes and the whole thing.
Sure
And it
is.
was
Yeah.
taking so much time out of our family life that it was I was starting to see little glimmers of that kind of workaholic starting to pop back up.
Because I was feeling better at the time.
Yeah.
Right. The podcast did help me a lot when I was doing it solo. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so we said, all right, so you've gotten what you've needed out of this. It's time to sunset this and let's just go on with our family life. And so we had just made that decision. And, I'm like, well, I wonder if anyone's said anything about it. I'm just going to Google our podcast and see what happens. And I happened upon this site that had, like 5 or 6 pages of reviews, and they were all 5-star reviews. And people had written paragraphs
Oh, I
about the
love that.
podcast. We had no idea this even
Yeah.
existed. And we're reading these, and, of course it was wonderful to read, but we happened upon one that this guy had said that this podcast was his constant source of surrender and inspiration and hope. And we're like, we just interview people, how is this? Like it wasn't connecting. But regardless, if we're helping one person,
Yes.
then we can't stop.
Mhm.
So luckily, Will found some really great editing software that cut his time literally in half. So, it's if you're doing things for the right reasons, the universe will find a way to make it better for you. And it did. So we were able to continue this without taking all this time away from our family. So we've continued the podcast. And what we've found now is that, mostly for Will, I think, since he has kind of turned that corner, we're not so much the skeptic metaphysicians anymore, but it's more of our audience You know, the people that are curious, that they want to know what's going on. So we ask the questions, we talk to the people, we come at it, we still come at it from the two different points of view, but we kind of call it like you know, dipping your toe in the water for people who are interested in this. Now the reviews we get are, thank you for helping me feel normal. Because a lot of people
Oh, that's
have these
wonderful.
experiences. It is, it's wonderful. And this is something that needs to be normalized, you know, but
Absolutely.
people will like, they'll hear the voices in their head and they think they're going crazy, or did I imagine that? Or, you know, was I dreaming? Was I astral projecting? I got it, you know. So we're trying to help these people realize, no, this is actually, there's so much more to us than we're led to believe throughout our, you know, regular day-to-day life.
Mhm.
And it's fine and it's normal, and experience it and be free and just live it.
Mm. And to, as a follow-up, in terms of us, how we've evolved our relationship because of the show, it has deepened our relationship so much. We don't still to this day have the exact same belief systems.
There's a lot of things we are total opposites.
Yeah, people are surprised how much we don't agree on things. However, we give each other the grace of believing whatever resonates with each other. I no longer have to be right. You no longer have to believe what I believe, because I've learned that there are many, many paths, and every path is just as valid as another. And so we allow each other to follow whatever path calls to us without judgment. And that's been a beautiful thing. We talked earlier about 15 years and how we're still just as connected now as we were when we first met. I would say we are more connected now because of this exploration that we're doing. We recognize each other now at the soul level, whereas before we recognize each other from the physical. Now we very much know who each other is to each other, and we celebrate that every single day.
I love this. How do you celebrate it every day?
We are that couple. We are that disgusting couple. We hold hands everywhere we go. We always give each other googly eyes still after 17 years. It is sickening when you think
fire
about
is still there.
it. Really is. Yeah.
It's still there
in every way. I literally, so, you know, you hear the whole practice of being grateful and all that kind of stuff. This is so cheesy. Jeez, I can't believe I'm about to say this. I literally, as the last thing I do when I'm going to sleep, is I thank the universe for providing me with a partner like Karen, because it is such a blessing. And I try the first thing in the morning to once again wake up with that same gratefulness, because the biggest jewel, the biggest treasure chest in Spanish, tesoro, that you could possibly have is the connection that Karen and I have. It's unheard of, and it is the most amazingly beautiful thing that I don't even have the words.
Well, it's like, and this is, I'm not like trying to be like, oh, we're so great at all, but here's an example, because I think one of the things is we don't try to hide how we feel. I mean, obviously we're not like rolling around in the grass outside. I mean, not usually, but but like, for example, we went to this was several years ago, it was pre-COVID. We went to anyways, we went to this bar, we wanted to go do karaoke. Like, let's go do karaoke. So we find, you know, we're on GPS or whatever, Googling it. We find this place, and it's this little like strip mall, and we walk in, and it was like the movies. It was like you walk in and the music stops, everyone stares at you, because it's like all these very, I don't want to be disparaging.
They were not diverse
At all. And people that you would think would hate people that look like us. You know? So we walk in and I'm like, oh my God, we should go. Like, that was, I felt really anxious about it. And I was like, no, we're come in, we'll have a drink at the bar. We're like, all right. So we go in, and, you know, people kind of looking at us, and, you know, have a drink at the bar. Then the karaoke starts, and they were terrible, which was wonderful, because then there's no pressure. And now people aren't really watching us.
Like, we fit right in,
Yeah.
man.
so we're drinking. So we go over to the karaoke thing. Next thing you know, we're singing and we're having a great time. Well, this big guy comes up to us, and he's like, I don't know, 6'4", plaid shirt, beard, like what you would exactly think it was going to say, you know, what are y'all doing in here? And, you know, so we start talking. He's like, you know, I have a question for you. And like a couple of the people came to our table, and he's like, you guys seem so happy. What advice can you give me for for me and my girlfriend. We didn't
love
even know
that.
this guy's name. This was
Yeah.
like a minute into the conversation with him. So I think the fact that we are just very free with how we feel about each other. I think the more you love, the more love comes out. And I always say,
Absolutely.
if you show love, you become love. And
Yes.
people feel that. And they feel that from us, which is great, because, the more people love, the better everything's going to be. So,
and that's what this world needs, right?
Yeah.
Much more love. In fact, we've talked to a lot of people who say, because my big question is, how do we change the world? I know we can change ourselves, but how do the people that are kind of digging their heels in and saying, no, I'm not going to go, how do you help them to realize that they don't have to be in fear? And the answer we're getting, those are the people that need your love the most.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, was a total wake-up call, because now I no longer, or I try, I'm still human. I got a long way to go yet, but I try to, when I encounter someone that's coming at me from fear or anger, I try to, instead of reacting back in the same thing, I try to instead give to them, right? Of my energy or my attention, and wish them love and peace and happiness, because that's what they need. They don't need you to be combative. They need you to be love. And the more that you do that, suddenly they start to soften up.
You don't know what they're going through. They could be going through something horrible and they're just reacting to their own reality. It has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
So they need that space.
Yeah, there are only two emotions, fear and love. That's it. Nothing else exists. Anything that's negative is based out of fear, period. You can dissect it left, right, up, and down, all around, and you're going to, at the end, find the same answer. And the answer is all negativity is fear. And so if you can transmute that, and what's interesting is there's even love in fear, because it takes love to eradicate fear. And so it's really important for viewers, watchers, and listeners to know that it's okay to have some fears, to welcome the fear, because on the other side of fear, it gives you the opportunity to transmute that into love.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of people get caught up on what exactly love is. And, we meditate and, you get the messages and stuff. And the thing that I've learned through my meditations is that most people think love is just, I have to have a husband or a child or a friend, and that's what love is. But it's so much more than that. And that, I was telling Will, it's like that kid, that little toddler playing at the beach for the first time. And he's just running around in the water, having the best time, laughing because he's feeling the sand underneath his feet and the water splashing on him. And he's just loving life. He's loving the feeling. He's loving the emotion. It has nothing to do with anybody else. That's love. I mean, love is all of it. And it's so strong and powerful.
And yet on the other side, you have people who are in the water, in the same water, the same sand, who are like, oh my God, it's so hard it's so hot in here, and it's so hard to walk through this water. And, they look at it from the wrong side, the wrong perspective, when all it needs to do is just take a minute. You're in the water. This is beautiful, refreshing. Your toes in the sand is so comfortable and so wonderful. Just,
and if you don't like the way the sand feels, you can float.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. There you go.
But even in that perspective, it's not a wrong perspective. In life,
correct.
There's no
Absolutely.
right or wrong. There's just a different way of viewing things.
Yeah.
And so if people can view that as some type of hesitation or wall that they have up, and just kind of accept it with grace, they can let it go and know that there's only clarity that life can give you.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point earlier, growth only happens at the edge of your comfort zone. You got to make yourself uncomfortable in order to evolve and to grow. And I think right now we are needing to grow. We're being forced to grow, whether we want to or not.
And who is we?
We, humanity, humans, all of us, the souls, everybody on this planet are being forced. That we're going through some tumultuous times.
Yes.
And I think it's by design. I think the universe is saying, okay, guys, you guys has had your fun. It's time to grow up a little bit.
Definitely. And do you see change taking place? Do you see an evolution of soul growth?
I do. I think more and more, you're seeing more and more people. You see it as much as we do, I'm sure, with your show. We're hearing from more and more and more people who are waking up, who are realizing who we really are. And then on the other side, we're seeing more and more people who don't want to admit that they're feeling the wake up call and are digging their heels in, saying, that's not for me.
Fear.
That is the fear. Yeah. And that's where you're feeling the division, right? You have the people who want to live in fear for some reason, and the people who are realizing that they don't have to.
So given the nature of your podcast, for people listening and tuning in for the first time, the Skeptic Metaphysicians, If one were to look up the definition of metaphysics, it is the study of the nature of reality. And so, since we are on the topic of reality and metaphysics and metaphysicians and skepticism, could it be going back to the same topic that we're on, as far as people are waking up now, and or there's more and more people waking up? Could it be possible that you are waking up more, and Karen's waking up more, and I'm waking up more, and we are on a different vibrational trajectory? Since there are infinite numbers of parallel realities, could it just be our reality that we're on right now, and these people are the ones that are waking up because we're waking up, and we're all mere reflection of everyone and everything outside of us? And I mean, could that be possible, or do you feel that even in all parallel realities, people are waking up?
This is some of my favorite topics when we talk about realities and different dimensions and things like that.
Well, me
Uh,
too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think there are an infinite number of realities, and I think there's an infinite number of earths and worlds and dimensions. I'm reading a book right now called Oneness, and it's a channeled work, and it is astounding. Conversations with God is similar, but Conversations with God, we had a writer who was having a dialogue with God, and God was giving him the answers, whereas this was more about a collective from beyond just lecturing to you about what how the universe works. And they, in the book, they talk about specifically this, and about the fact that yes, there are many multiple versions of us undergoing different things.
Yes.
However, as we evolve, as we raise our vibrations, those multiple versions of us start becoming joined. And eventually our goal is to unify us completely, so that when we are ready, we can all meaning us completely, evolve to where we need to go at some point in the future. It talks about, you might have sometimes seen something in a counter somewhere, and you turn back and you come back and suddenly it's not there anymore, or vice versa, or something like that. And they're saying that the dimensions are starting to fold in on each other. The more that you evolve, the more that your other cells merge with you, and ultimately that's what we want to get to. I don't know if that's true or not, but this is what the book is saying.
From what you're telling me right now, I mean, I feel there's truths in everything. Whatever resonates with you is a truth, a type of truth. And so as you're explaining this to me, I can envision it. And because I can picture it, that means that it's possible for it to come into fruition. And so in that, ask the question that I'd asked earlier, whether or not you feel that we are going to evolve or upgrading ourselves, you could say, together as a one in all parallel realities, or if it's individualistic. I'm feeling that it's definitely possible for that, if we're, especially if we're on the vibration of love and above and attracting goodness, and on that, when we're surfing that wave. I mean, we could possibly keep surfing that wave, and then all of those realities can transmute themselves into the highest vibration, which is what feels good, which is why it's important for people to be in the present moment. When people say be in the present moment, especially if you're feeling good, stay on that good vibing feeling, because that's when everything else starts attracting and magnetizing towards you and magnetizing you.
For sure. Yeah. And I think ultimately that's what we want to do. Yes. That resonates with me quite a bit. So that's the path that I choose to go down. There are other people who think that, let me back up. I believe that we are all eventually going to waken. We are all going to get there at some point. Just some of us might get there sooner than others, and that's perfectly okay, because we're all on our own timeline. There are some who are saying that they feel that not only are we raising our vibrations, but so is the planet. And as the planet raises its vibration itself, it's splitting off into another dimension. And those that are not ready yet are staying behind in the three-dimensional version of this planet, while those of us who are moving on into the five-dimension version of this planet. And they're saying this is why you're finding, they just found a new lizard a few months ago, that they had, it's a new species that they had never seen before. And they're saying that because as we raise the vibrations, new types of species are going to become, are going to be revealed, because they've always been there. They've just been at a higher dimension. And those species that are staying behind the three-dimensional world or vibration are those that maybe perhaps are going extinct. I don't know how I feel about that. However, this is some of the conversations that we're having on the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also dinosaurs are still existing on a different dimension. They're on their own parallel reality. They still exist, and
I
that's
am
really what's incredible.
totally on board with that. I
Yeah.
love dinosaurs.
I love dinosaurs too.
Yeah, I am totally on board.
This is really incredible. And so you feel that you and I'm reading this from your profile. You and Karen feel that this time around, you and Karen are messengers on your podcast to amplify, let's see here, all important messages that you're receiving from your guests. Is this correct?
It is. Yeah. I don't have any special skills or talents or abilities. People tell me I'm precog, and sure, every once in a while I'll get a hit, but even a clock is right twice a day, right? but I've always wanted to astral project, for example, or but I've never done that. What lights me up now is the ability to bring these messages, this awakening energy out to as many people as possible. And I have a feeling, and I get the feeling this is what I'm supposed to be doing this time around. Not be looking for special skills or abilities. I don't want to levitate or bilocate. I mean, it would be cool.
You don't?
Like, yes, you do.
I want to
it would be-
levitate. That's
it would be
awesome.
cool. But believe me, if I was going to be able to do it, I would be able to do it by now.
Yeah.
And I'd be looking for you.
Right.
Where'd it go?
Right. But the thing that really tipped the scales for me the most is, and I can't believe you hadn't talked about it already. I totally forgot about it. There was a point about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, that I was diagnosed with cancer. And when you get diagnosed with something like that, and I know that the feeling, it floors you, it changes your life. It makes things almost surreal. Well, long story short, over the course of doing these interviews with people and helping to share the messages, each time that we did that, whatever practitioner it was, if we shared with them and I kept it quiet for quite a while, everyone who came on who had a healing modality said, "Oh my gosh, please let me work on you," and so of course, thank you. More than graciously accept.
And at this point, we were just on what do they call it? Active
Surveillance.
Surveillance, yeah. So he wasn't taking any medications, wasn't doing any chemo, anything like that.
Right.
We were just kind of waiting to see how it was going to grow, what was going to happen.
Right. So then we underwent a lot of these different modalities, and then by the time it came time for my second confirmatory biopsy, they did a targeted biopsy, which meant that they did an MRI, and then they layered it over the sonogram that they do while they're doing the biopsy, just to identify the problem areas, to make sure that they really target where they wanted to pull the mass from.
And a few more spots had popped up on the MRI.
And a couple more. Yeah, exactly. So I was going into the second biopsy with grim expectations. Unfortunately, my mindset was not where it needed to be. However, when we got the results back, Karen was, yes.
I'm like, nope.
Yeah. Karen to this day does not accept that I had cancer, even though we had it confirmed by multiple doctors.
Yeah,
it wasn't just one.
Second opinions. And...
Yeah. But anyway, the results for the second biopsy, I fully expected to be unfortunate news. However, when I got them and I opened them up, we were at work. We worked together. And I opened it up on my own by myself, and I couldn't read it. My hands were shaking. I was inside. I was, I'm expecting terrible news. And they pulled 18 bores.
Cores.
Excuse me. Sorry?
Cores. 18
cores. And each one had a different result. And as I read them, each one was benign. And I couldn't process it.
Yeah.
So I called Karen in. Can you please tell me what I'm seeing here. And so she's looking at me, she's seeing my reaction. I'm in complete hysterics because I can't understand what I'm reading. And so she's expecting the worst. So she reads it and she starts bursting out crying, which then makes me, oh my God, I'm about to start crying. I gotta stop. Makes me start crying because it was, talk about a miracle. We did nothing. We did no surgery, did no chemo, we did no drugs, nothing. All we did was help to spread the message of love and positivity, and in return got this healing, these energy exchanges from these modalities that were so beautiful and so wonderful that to this day, knock on wood, I've never had to undergo any treatment.
The cancer was gone.
Cancer, they couldn't find it.
Mhm.
It was gone completely. They could not find it at all. That didn't do anything. And that to me is a miracle. It is a testament to doing what your purpose in life is. When you are on your purpose, everything, to your point earlier, everything just slots in exactly to the good. And that's what we're living in right now.
When you are living on purpose, meaning your authenticity, and you eradicate a lot of anger and resentment out of your body, you eradicate disease. There's been a lot of studies that show that cancer, and I'm not saying every single cancer, I'm not saying childhood cancer, but most cancers, adult onset cancers, a lot of them are brought by emotions. And not just cancer, all diseases, all diseases. You lower your vibration, you're going to attract what's on that vibration. And those vibrations are a lot of different diseases. In cancer, one of the underlying emotions is these resentment and anger. And it makes sense based on the history that you were telling me, all the resentment and anger, your body starts to store it in areas. It can't get rid of it any other way. It's going to store in your fascia, it's going to store in your organs, it's going to store somewhere.
Yeah.
But you were energetically able to rid that vibration out of your body and heal yourself.
Yeah. I mean,
And that's
Dr. Joe
wonderful.
Dispenza talks about it all the time, right? You can, you are a walking miracle, to your point earlier today.
Yes.
We are walking miracles. And if we live in our purpose and in love, we absolutely, I strongly believe that we can absolutely heal ourselves.
We can, absolutely. And, you know, this actually, as you were talking here, I started to remember a lot of the times that a lot of people that I've guests that I've had on my podcast that have led to my wellness journey. I even had to change my wording from healing journey to wellness, because if you're on a healing journey, you're always going to be healing. Like, well, I'm done with the healing journey. I'm on a wellness journey. I'm
I
well
love that.
now.
Yes.
Change that
yes.
word. You know, all words have a vibration. When you start
Absolutely.
to change the semantics, you start to change your overall being, your aura, your vibration, your signature, energetic signature. Everyone has an energetic signature. What is your autograph? I want it. Give it out to people.
Yeah.
It heals people. It really does.
Yeah, it does. And I think that's what our being messengers signifies to us. This is it really fuels us. When Karen said that review that said, help, thank you for making me feel normal, that is everything to us. And that it's just a beautiful thing for us to experience. Every time we get a message like that, it makes it all worthwhile, for sure.
It really is. Thank you for making me feel normal. I mean, we're all normal. We're all normal. And when I mean, just like all the divine Jesus, for example, he saw people in their normal state. He didn't see sick people. He saw them for their divine light. And when you see people for who they are, not the things that they've done, you're healing them with your energy by even just seeing their inner light. It's really beautiful.
It is. It absolutely is. Unfortunately, over the past, I don't know how many years, society, for whatever that means, has made this not be normal. The stuff that we are going through right now, the things that we're talking about right now, a lot of people look as abnormal or weird or strange. Thankfully, that's changing because more and more people are experiencing it and acknowledging it. And each one of us that is doing this work is helping all of those out there who don't have the experience, the knowledge, we all have to, when we climb a ladder, it's super important to reach down and hold and pull up someone below us to help them climb the ladder behind us if they're reaching their hand up, right?
Yeah.
We're not here to force someone up the ladder, but if someone's holding up their hand, asking for help, that's what we want to do. We want to help them up the ladder as we go up the ladder as well.
Yes. And when you do that, when you help someone up up the ladder, someone's going to help the next person up the ladder, and it's an incredible ripple effect. And that's
Yes.
exactly what we want to see.
Yes.
That's what we
We're
want to
all
feel.
one. We're all one. We all want to get there together. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let's talk about this a little more. You said we are all one. I've heard that we are one of one, and I've also heard that we are one. Can you
Yes.
differentiate the two?
That's one of the places where we differ.
Uh-huh. In a big
Oh,
way.
really?
Yes.
So,
Big
so
way.
Karen and Will have two different things to say about this.
Yes.
Let's
Yes.
go there.
Go, Karen.
Oh, well, so I think for me, being all of one means that we are all connected. And once we evolve, when we get to that place, it's like a big, beautiful, shining, sparkly mesh or network or something. That's what I see of individuals that are linked together and connected. So you can have those same thoughts, the same energy, and that same feeling, but it's not just one. It's not. And whereas Will, I think more, it's like, I'm part of him. He always says, "Oh, you're my other half." I'm like, no, we're separate. We're together but separate.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. For me, Doc, you are another version of me that is
Sure.
experiencing something different. For me, we are all drops from the same ocean.
Yes.
And when we go back, we unite with each other as one. We are one consciousness.
Oh, go ahead.
No, please.
So the issue that I have with that, and with the feelings and with the connection that I have, that to me sounds so lonely. And that's where I
Why does
reject
that
that,
sound lonely, Karen?
because it's just one. For me, like, what makes me thrive is that connection, those connections with others, that energy source, that love. And if it was just me by myself, loving myself, I mean, I don't know, it just seems so lonely to me.
It sounds like the old Will.
It does.
But if
Yeah.
love ultimately comes from source, from the one, there is no loneliness in true love.
Unless
Because
I'm
love is
just
the ever expansion and the ever growth and the ever highest vibration and the gift that keeps on giving. So what about being alone or feeling alone in love feels lonely? I don't really feel them both right now.
yeah, no, I don't. So I'm not that person that has to be with people. I'm fine by myself or on my own. But for me, what charges me are those connections.
I see.
And to not have that, to have only myself ever, would be a huge lack for me. And so to think that I'm just going to evolve to be part of something that's just going to be me and that's it. It's like when you do those meditations and they're like taking you out to space and they're like, look at the darkness. I'm like, well, that's lonely.
It's just you floating out in
It's just
space.
me floating around. That's not, and I think there's so much more to it than that. I think there's so much more.
I believe that we create our own reality. And if we can create our own reality here in this three-dimensional space where the veil is so thick, once we pass, how could we not create our own reality instantaneously? Because the veil is non-existent. We now have access to source, to everything. We are source. We are everything.
Mhm.
So for me, when we die, we create our own reality, our own afterlife. So for Karen, it's very probable. I can guarantee you that when she goes, she's going to be one of many in unified through love. Whereas when I pass, I have a very strange sensation that I'm going to be
You're floating around.
in space by myself. No, I'm gonna rejoin the source. I'm gonna rejoin one. And to your point, I think it will be love and connection and things like that. But the beautiful thing about this is that we can have these conversations and we can explore different facets of it, and it's
Yeah.
fascinating because
Right.
I never thought of that perspective until Karen shared it with me.
Yeah, definitely. You know, way that I see it. Thanks for sharing, Karen and Will. Really, I feel both of them. I feel that we're one and we're also one of one. I feel them both. So I
Collective.
interchangeably. But the thing that brought me into focus with this quite recently, actually, is knowing the difference or feeling the internal intuitive difference between spirit and soul. And when I see the difference between spirit and soul, we all have a soul, we all have a soul, we all have a soul. But what is spirit in that case? And I started realizing and recognizing this when I was out in nature or feeling the wind across my face or seeing a squirrel run up to me and run off, making eye contact with a random dog on the street and seeing that spirit is all around us. There's the spirit of the earth. It's got its own heart, its own heartbeat. I feel the spirit of the earth. I feel the spirit of the stars. I feel the spirit of the moon. I feel the spirit of my bed. Everything has a vibration. Everything is alive, whether it has a heartbeat, a heart that's beating, whether it's got blood in it or not. And when I started to feel the spirit in everything and then recognizing that I'm singular or feeling singular in my soul, I'm able to embrace the spirituality that exists all around me. And in that, I'm able to merge with spirit and soul and then feel like I'm one. But I'm also able to see that I'm one of one and at the same time one. Yeah.
I love
Listen to him, Will.
that. No, I love that. I do.
Yeah.
It resonates so well with me.
Mhm.
Especially I was just like you mentioned, I was in the solitary retreat this past week. I was out in nature. It was freezing cold, but out there somehow, for some reason, it felt good. It felt like I was connecting with something.
Yeah.
And it was so needed, right? I was so disconnected for so long that at the end of last year, I was burnt out incredibly. But spending a week out literally, Doc, I had no cell service, very spotty
Wow.
internet. There was nothing to do for
No
miles and miles,
TV.
no television, no electronics. It was
Wow.
just
I'd love to
me.
have an experience like
Oh,
that.
if you can, I recommend it wholeheartedly.
I
Um,
want that.
Yeah, I just suggest you do it when it's warm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than the fire going out and it's pitch dark outside and you can't find wood to restart it.
Oh my goodness. I can't imagine.
Right, right. But
This
no,
has been amazing.
I definitely resonate with
Yeah.
that sense of spirit because you definitely
Mhm.
feel it. You walk out in the woods, immediately your nature, you feel that.
Yeah.
It is a connection that is undeniable.
Mhm.
It is definitely. You know what's been incredible to connecting here today at this present moment with the both of you. Thank you so much for being your authentic selves, for shining the way that you do, for motivating people, helping people feel normal, normalizing that they are one of one, or one, and that we're all together and equally connected. I really loved connecting with all of you. How can our viewers, our watchers, and our listeners find your Skeptic Metaphysician podcast and get a hold of you if they need to?
We are everywhere. You cannot hide from us. Every podcast platform is out there. That's out there. You can find us on.
Mhm.
But if it's easier, you can just go to skepticmetaphysician.com. All the links are there. You can subscribe to the show there. You can listen to the show or watch the show there on the site itself. You can send us messages from the emails from the site. You can send us voicemails from the site. We love hearing from people. And we a lot of times will use the voicemails we get or the emails we get on the air to answer questions or jump off point for discussions or conversations,
Mhm.
or even just share because it's such a great message.
And we have a newsletter that we send out. And if you're a member, a lot of our guests, not all of them, but a lot of them will give discounts to our members. So if they do readings, they might give, 15% off or, even better sometimes. So it's a good resource. And we don't make any money off of that. So it's not for us to make money. It's just to share the wealth.
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you so much, you two. So I'm going to end this with a poem that I wrote inspired by the both of you when I connected with your energies prior to physically, or we're actually not even physically in person, but in
Um,
this time-space reality. I created this poem and I dedicate it to the both of you and our energy and to the collective. It's called Thank You. Thank you for today. Thank you for tomorrow. Thank you for yesterday. As I embrace all that I've become, I feel the spirit of earth, the spirit of angels, and the spirit of consciousness hug me, love me, and cherish me. As I embrace fear, courage, and tears, I let go of what no longer serves me and open up the angelic doors to infinite potential. The sun shines rays on my face as the wind kisses my cheek, and I say thank you for today. Thank you for tomorrow, and thank you for yesterday. Thank you, Karen and Will, for being on A Little Less Fear podcast.
Aw, that
Thank-
was
It
beautiful.
was. I
Thank
got
you.
chills, literal chills. Thank you for having us on. This was so
It
wonderful.
was fun.
What a great time. Lovely to meet you. And we really appreciate you reaching out and having us on your show.
You're welcome. This has been a blessing. Thank you to the both of you, and I wish you all and your loved ones an incredible New Year's 2024.
Thank you. Likewise.
Likewise.